Welcome everyone. Hope you're all doing well. We are holding in Torah 21, Torah Chaf Aleph in Likutei Moharan, and we are at Ois Vav, number 6, which is on page 268. Yeah. So for a tiny bit of background, not too much though, because I think we can encapsulate what we've been talking about so far in an easy way. One second. So we really began talking about this experience of downloading divine wisdom in a Ruach HaKodesh kind of way, basically connecting to being able to live on a higher plane of divine wisdom, to the extent that it could be of Ruach HaKodesh, of like divine inspiration, right? And so we saw that in order to do this, we have to sanctify our 7 candles, which are all the ways we interface with the world, which are eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, which make 7. 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and one mouth. And when we really work on purifying those and using them only for good, they become luminous, and they become a way that we can draw in this Shefa Eloki, this divine wisdom. We become a new person, basically, a new vessel that can really receive what Hashem is trying to give us, can really receive the light of illuminated wisdom. And so we saw that that's also, there's another places that we see this pattern where there's a purification or a sanctification of 7 of something that leads to an experience of divine light, right? And really, it's one of the things that we're going to see in this Torah is that this concept that we're talking about is visible everywhere in the universe and in many, many different aspects of Torah, which is something actually that they say about when we learn Kabbalah, that the more you learn Kabbalah, the more you see it everywhere. And it's almost like it's like DNA, where that if there's the whole body of a person has the same DNA everywhere, right? But the DNA of the hand actualizes as hand material, and the DNA of the eye is actualized, but it's the same DNA, right? But so if you had like a microscope of sufficient capabilities, you'd see, if you look down deep, you'd see the same thing everywhere. So too, if you know how to look at the universe, you can see the same spiritual DNA everywhere also, and these concepts will repeat themselves. So we saw this concept of purifying some aspect of 7, sanctifying some aspect of 7, and it leading to a connection to divine light. So too, we saw this also by a wedding, that you have the wedding, and the chuppah represents the makifin, that high light that we want to draw in, and high wisdom that we want to draw in. But they have to go through these sheva brachas, these 7 days of feasting after the wedding, in order to draw that down, to be able to get to that place of light. So too, we saw on the other side of the coin, when it's their time to move on to the next life, right? So what happens? We observe a 7-day mourning period. And that 7-day mourning period is not just so that the people who are left can get a hold of their emotions. It's also, when that 7-day mourning period is properly observed, it purifies a 7-fold pathway that allows that soul to go up and to experience the divine light that is meant for it. So we see this concept of sanctification, purification of 7, leading to an experience of divine light, of Or HaPanim, right? And then we said last week that there's also a connection to the mitzvah of chalitza. The mitzvah of chalitza is when a man gets married to a lady, and the man dies without having children with this lady. So there's a mitzvah for his brother to marry this lady, and then through marrying her and having children with her, and they'll name the baby after the father, after the previous brother who died, and through this he will carry on the name, sort of the spiritual lineage of that father. and it will of the brother who passed away, and by doing that, it will be that person left something in the world that is able to draw in that divine light, right? Rabbi Nachman said it wouldn't be good that a person leaves the world and has not left anything behind that can draw down that light. Okay, there's other things to do also, by the way, but okay. And so we saw that, and on top of that, we saw this reference to a father and spitting in the face with Miriam. So if back to the chalitza, if the brother is not such a nice guy and he doesn't want to help to build up the name of his brother and to continue the name of his brother, and he doesn't want to marry this lady who wants to marry him, then he has to do a procedure where he brings this shoe, and the lady has to Yorik Lefanov, she has to spit Befanov, which sometimes could be translated as in front of him, but Rabbi Nachman says in his face specifically, has to spit in his face. Why? Because this divine light that we're trying to bring down is called Or HaPanim. It's called the light of the face of Hashem. Right? Just like Moshe Rabbeinu's, when he had this light, his face was glowing. It's called the Or HaPanim, the light of the face of Hashem. And so she has to spit in his face as if to embarrass him, as if to say, you don't want to bring, by not doing this mitzvah, you're stopping this tremendous light to be able to brought down into the world. That's called Or HaPanim, the light of the face. So you're getting someone's going to spit in your face now, right? It's kind of like a midah keneged midah sort of punishment, if you could say so. That's the way it works. So, but by Miriam, we know what happened with Miriam and Aaron, with Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So they spoke sort of Lashon Hora against Moshe Rabbeinu and said, how could it be, Moshe Rabbeinu? You think, why are you separating from your wife? Even though Hashem basically told him to separate from his wife, but they said, you're a prophet, we're prophets, we don't separate from our spouses, why are you separating from your wife? It's an Aveira. You should be together with your wife. What are you doing separating from your wife, right? And really they didn't realize, and Hashem told them, you don't know, Moshe Rabbeinu is different than all other prophets. And Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to me face to face, mouth to mouth. And my connection with Moshe Rabbeinu is higher than everyone else. And so because she spoke Lashon Hora against Moshe Rabbeinu, she received this punishment of tzaras, of the skin affliction, spiritual skin affliction, of the Metzora. And Hashem said like this. Let's go to page 270, and we'll start from there. And this is what the pasuk said regarding this. Wouldn't it be that if her father had spit in her face, that she would be embarrassed for 7 days, right? Shivas yamim. So then she's going to get a 7-day punishment. But where is this coming from? That all of a sudden, it's being said about Miriam that if someone spit in her face, wouldn't she be embarrassed for 7 days? Where's this coming from? Who said anything about spitting in the face? She just said Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu. Where's the spitting in the face coming from? Right? So Rabbi Nachman is telling us is that there's a connection here. We're seeing the same thing unfold in this story when the light, the divine light of the Or HaPanim is being blocked out from the world. When the brother didn't marry the wife of his brother, because in order to bring another human into the world and to bring that Or HaPanim into the world, his punishment was getting spit in the face. Miriam over here was not appreciating the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was the main source of the Or HaPanim. And so the Torah says to her, wouldn't she be embarrassed if her father spit in her face? That's not coming out of left field. That sounds like it's totally out of left field. But once again, it's showing that there's a pagam, there's a blemish in the relationship to the divine light that comes from Hashem into the world, which is called, once again, what's it called? Or HaPanim, the light of the face. So she too also gets this spit in the face vort over here. And what's her punishment? She would be embarrassed for 7 days, and she has to be quarantined outside of the camp for 7 days. Why? Because, once again, how do we attain this Or Hapanim? Is through the 7-fold pathway of sanctifying our 7 orifices of our head, or the seven days of wedding to draw down that light, or the 7 days of mourning to escort that soul up to the divine light. Right? So, okay, now we're going to and this is what happened with the chalitza and the yavama, that he didn't want to bring down the light from his brother into the world, right? And so too, Miriam set a pagam in the light of her brother coming into the world. This is what Chazal say, that the yavama, the wife of the brother, is acquired through maimar, through a speech, a proclamation. Which is the opposite of embarrassment. Bechinas kule omer kavod, a speech. Someone gives a speech. It is connected to kavod. It's not remaining silent and dark in the corner and embarrassed, right? A person who's embarrassed is quiet and silenced. Someone who has kavod can speak very clearly. So when he would marry this wife, wife of his brother, so then it's called. He acquires her through maimar, through a speech, through a proclamation. Because kuloi omer kavod, when we speak, it has a connection to kavod. Heifech shal tikalim shivas yamim, the opposite of being embarrassed for 7 days. Miriam shepagma b'kavod Moshe, she made a pagama blemish in the honor of Moshe. Shehu b'china shefa eloki. Moshe was, for all intents and purposes, he is shefa eloki, divine wisdom embodied, right? And she made a blemish in him. Pagma b'bechinas shivas nira, she made a blemish in the 7 candles of the menorah. Kihu haya anav, he was a humble person. Shafal v'savlan, lowly and tolerant. V'loy chara apoy al bizyoina, he did not get angry when he was embarrassed. Ze b'chinas, and then we explained how Moshe, I realized that we did this all last week, by the way. So then Rabbi Nachman explains how Moshe Rabbeinu, every single one of these things, eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, was all holy by him, using psukim. First of all, peh el peh, he spoke to Hashem, that's the mouth. And tumunas Hashem yabit, he saw the vision of Hashem, that's the eyes. And it said, b'chol beisi ne'manu, that he was trustworthy, that has to do with the ears. B'chinas ne'man ruach mechaper davar, because the Zohar explains how a trustworthy person is connected to the ears. That's why she became a Matzora. Da Segiru de Nahara Ilah. Because the Zohar says, what is a Matzora? What is a person who gets the skin disease of Matzora? What's happening on a spiritual level? The Zohar Kadosh says it's a blockade, a containment. Guys, I don't know if you can tell, I'm out of it tonight. I was working very hard today. I have a headache. I'm trying my best here. So if I make any mistakes, you'll have to tell me, okay? Segiru de Nahara Ilah means a containment of the supernal light. The supernal light is blocked off and cut off, right? Or Hapanim, which is Or Hapanim. It says about her tisager michutz lamachane shivas yamim. So she had to be tisager. She had to be contained, blockaded, right, outside of the camp for 7 days, because she blocked off the spiritual light. She thought to block off the spiritual light of Moshe Rabbeinu, which and so mida keneged mida, measure for measure, she gets blockaded out also. And this is what Aaron HaKohen asked about her. Al natahi kameis asher b'tesem merechem imoy v'yechal chatzi b'sarei. So now we're going to get to this awesome thing. Now I remember where we left off last week. Okay, so Aaron HaKohen says to his sister Miriam, Al natahi, don't be like one who is dead, b'teso merechem imoy, coming out of the womb of his mother, vayeyachel chatzi basarei, and half of his flesh is consumed. Okay, that's what Aaron says to Miriam. Because through the fact that she tried to block the supernal light from coming down, she's considered like a mace. Ki matzora chashav kameis, because a matzora, the Gemara tells us, is considered like a dead person. Asher. So now we have to understand what this means. Okay, stick with me. This is going to be cool. Asher b'tzeisa merechem imay, that came out of the womb of his mother. This is referring to the zebechinas yibum. This is referring to the levirate marriage of the two brothers and the wife. Shal yadei hayibum itasei ime. That's because it's through the mitzvah of yibum that the man's wife becomes his mother. She'ishtoi naises lo'eim. His wife is made into his mother. How do we see such a thing? Because the Zohar HaKadosh tells us, the deeper Torah tells us, that what was happening, what did we already say? That when the brother does this big mitzvah and marries his dead brother's wife, right? What's he trying to do? He's trying to establish the name of his brother in the world. So that brother's soul is reincarnated in the baby that's born from that union. Right? So it comes out in a very strange turn of events. That baby is born, but it's reincarnated of the dead brother who was married to this lady who's now his mother. So the woman that was his wife is now his mother. Okay, you with me? So there's a huge problem with this. Right? So he says, we're on page 274 now. Vaye'ochel chatzi basarei, and half of his flesh is eaten. So the pasuk that we were talking about, don't be like a baby who's born dead, chas v'shalom, whose flesh is half eaten. Okay? When it comes out of the womb of the mother. So the baby being born, we're explaining, is referring to the yibum and the reincarnation of that brother's soul to his wife, who's now his mother, and half of his flesh has been eaten. What does this mean? What do we say is the relationship between a Jewish man and a Jewish woman when they get married? They're only each half of a soul that have to come back together to make a whole soul. Right? Adam and Chava were separated. They were one. And then they were separated. And then they had to come back together. And their flesh had to come back together. So too, everyone who has what we call their beshert out there, the person that they're meant to marry, right? They're finding their other half of their soul. When they don't have that other half of their soul, they're only half, right? So what's happening over here? The baby's coming out, it says, and half the flesh is eaten away. Half the flesh is gone. I know. So what's the problem now when this baby is born reincarnated to his wife, who's now his mother? He now doesn't have an other half. He has no marriage partner. Kibal ve'ishtai hem trei palgegufa, because a husband and a wife are two halves of one body, one existence. Va'achshav she'ishtai hi'imai, and now that he's born reincarnated, and his wife is now his mother, it's as if half of his flesh has been consumed, because he can't marry her anymore. He now has no marriage partner. Right? Who's he going to marry? Ve'ein le bas zug. Everyone needs to find their other half. And if they don't have their other half, we're only half. Right? So now he's been born into a weird reincarnation situation where his bashert, the one that was meant for him, right, is now his mother. He can't marry. He can't find the other half anymore. It can't be. Strange situation, right? So he's now going to explain in Rav Nosson language over here, I guess. Perush, ki misha meis b'loy banim. Someone who dies without children, azai ishtoi tzricha lehis yabim. Then his wife has to do the mitzvah of yibum. Val yedei hayibum nisgalgal hameis behaben shenoilad meishtoi. And through this mitzvah of yibum, so he is reincarnated in the son that is born from his wife. Shenisyav malachiv, who got levirate married to his brother. Kamur basama, like it says in the Zohar HaKadosh, it to say ime, that his wife becomes his mother. Hainu, shehu tsar va'oinish gadol lahameis. This is a big tsar and a big punishment, really, to the one who died, to the mace. Sheishta nais loim, that his wife is now made into his mother. Now he has to be born from his wife. And his wife is made into his mother. Ben hayavama hazeh, and because of this child of the Levirate marriage, shenoilad mehayibum, that was born from Levirate marriage, efshar loy limtzai zivugoy, it's impossible for him to find his other half. Ki im berachamim gedolim, except through tremendous rachamim, mercy from Hashem. Kamuva bazayar, like it says in the Zohar, sha'alav nemar pen yikadmenu acha berachamim. It says about this marriage that unless someone comes with tremendous rachamim, in other words, he's put into a precarious situation here, and unless something really, like out of the ordinary, something going beyond the natural order of things happens, he has no marriage partner. This person in existence. You with me? Because this child born to the Levirate marriage, who really is the husband of the lady, and his wife was made into his mother, he doesn't have a marriage partner in the world, because his marriage partner became his mother. This is what Rabbi Nachman is explaining. Shebikesh Aaron al Miriam, that Aaron was asking about Miriam. Shepagma b'seichel apanim, that she made a blemish in this divine light from Moshe Rabbeinu. Shezehu abagam shel hameis b'loi banim. This is the same pagam that happens to, the same blemish that happens to someone who dies without children. Shaloi tehei ne'eneshes, that she shouldn't be punished, chas v'shalom, God forbid, be'oinesh hayibum, in the same type of punishment that this man who dies without children gets. V'zehu al na tehi kameis asher b'tzesim merechem imoy. Don't be like a dead person, a dead child. I'm sorry, I'm saying these words, so it's very hard to say. Asher b'tzesim merechem imoy, when he comes out of the womb of his mother, shaloi tehi kameis, shaloi tehi merechem imoy hainu she'ishtoi naisis loy. Sorry, I skipped a line. That you shouldn't be like someone who died without children. That he has to come now and be reincarnated a second time from the womb of his mother. His wife becomes his mother. And because of this, he's going to have half of his flesh is going to be eaten, meaning his marriage partner is going to be gone. Half of his body, his marriage partner. He has no marriage partner. Miriam should not have the same type of punishment. It is what Aaron was asking over here. Okay, let's just bring that down a little bit. The punishment for the problem with, and the punishment for cutting off the divine light, right, is it's a terrible thing to cut off the divine light that needs to come into the world. So a person passing away without children is cutting off the flow of divine light into the world. Moshe, someone who tries to silence, who tries to stop Moshe Rabbeinu, is cutting off the flow of divine light into the world. This is what Miriam did, and we see from the Zohar Kadosh that that the punishment for this person of Yibum, for this person who has to reincarnate, is very intense and severe. And what did they do? They were cutting off the divine light. So Rabbi Nachman is explaining to us that Aaron was just saying, sister Miriam, you did the same thing. Please, Hashem, don't give her the same type of punishment. Please, don't make her experience these terribly difficult reincarnations with no marriage partner and all these difficulties, right? Please don't do that. That's what Aaron HaKohen was saying. So what are we talking about over here? Why are we bringing this down over here? I believe that Rabbi Nachman is explaining to us over here the significance and the importance of this avodah, of this work that we're trying to do, right? Ultimately, what we're trying to do is to allow ourselves to draw in this light, right? And then we have to know that light also comes through in other life cycle events. When we're married, when we pass away, we connect to this light. And he's impressing upon us that bringing children into the world is not just, something that we do so we can feel fulfilled. It's not just something that we can do so we can try to send them to the best schools and then get a lot of nachas from them and then brag to our friends and family about our children. That's not what they're for. Children are born to be able to be a new source of divine light in the world. Right? And when we try to cut off, or we don't allow that divine light to come in, right? It's as if, this is my own understanding of it, it's as if we're missing the entire point of life. Right? So if you're in the Yibum situation and you're the brother and you say, no thank you, I can't really, I don't really have time for that right now. Right? The Torah is telling us, what do you mean you don't have time? This is the whole point of your existence. This was the whole point of your brother, is to bring light into the world. Here you have a chance to help his soul continue to bring light into the world. And you're saying no? Right? With Miriam, you don't understand that your brother is different? He's the biggest source of divine light in the entire world. You don't get it? Right? So, for us, practically speaking, we got to keep working on our own 7 menorahs, our own personal existence. Use those eyes for good things, the nose and the ears and the mouth. Do everything we can to allow ourselves to be able to receive this light and put it out there. And then each one of us, in our own way, with our relationship with our children or our future children, right? And if someone is looking for a shidduch to get married, Mitzvah Hashem, they should find a shidduch soon, and they should realize that the purpose of getting married is not so that I have a good spouse who is very attractive and will just make me feel good all the time, right? And that I'll have someone to go and show off to other people and whatnot, right? That's not the purpose, right? The purpose is that I should get married so that I can create this environment where divine light can be brought into the world through my relationship with my spouse and through the children that I have with my spouse, right? And I'll this will be my rant for today, very short. in the shidduch system these days, people go in to try to get married, and they have a resume and a list of this is what I'm looking for. It's got to be this, and this. Can have to do with looks, can have to do with hashkafa, with how much money people make, with who knows what people can ask for, saying this is what I'm interested in, right? It was never like this in the past ever, right? This is a new thing. I think it's super terrible, and really, people have to meet, and they have to have common goals, right? But then, if people realize that I'm getting married for a much bigger purpose, and it's not so that I can wear the right clothes and I can fit in with the right social group, right? And that I can feel, good about myself. That's nothing wrong with that, right? That's not the purpose. The purpose is that we are getting together to build a house that promotes divine light coming into the world, that has hachnasas orchim, that has kedusha Shabbos, that has shalom bayis, that has Torah, that has mitzvahs, that has all of these things. I'm making a house that's going to be a place of light, right? And we're building it together. And that's what we both want to do. Then all those things seem much, much less important. I would never, God forbid, put such a list if I really had my priorities in the right place, right? End of rant. And then you're gonna have children, and they're gonna bring light into the world. If you already have children, and maybe they're not, they don't appear to be the type of people who are bringing light into the world in the way that Rabbi Nachman might have talked about. We all have a relationship with those children, and we all have a job to do, and in the same way, really, right? All we have to do is do our best to try and accomplish this, and we'll see the way Hashem makes it happen. They're going to be, somehow, through us, they will be able to bring light into the world in the way they're supposed to be. It may take some time, it may be through a slightly different path than we expect, but that's what we have to do. If, some people get older and they don't have children, so that person can focus more on how am I bringing the light through myself? How can I help others to strengthen their light, right? Everyone has the ability to take the words of Rabbi Nachman here, whatever life situation we're in, right? And to help ourselves, our children, and friends and relations to us to bring the divine light into the world through this concept of 7 that we're learning over here. So we should all take chizuk, strength, and no one chas v'sholom should feel negative or yush if they don't feel that they're living up to what Rabbi Nachman is telling us right now. Okay, we're going to take this now, and we're going to turn it now to a different perspective. And this, I was thinking about how to understand this, and it's important for us to remember, when we're talking about these things that are very deep and spiritual in nature, that different perspectives of the same thing often can teach us something greater about them. And just like with the first part of the Torah, where we said this pathway can be seen in multiple different aspects of our life, we're now going to take another concept and see how it impacts us on a spiritual level and a physical level, and how we can learn this concept through it. So we're going to look at the concept of birth, really. Like real birth. So let's see what it says over here. We're on Zion now on page 276. V'lifamim, sometimes, yesh shehamoichin ve'ashefa eloki hu behelam. Sometimes, this deep wisdom that we're trying to attain is behelam. It's hidden. It's not available to us. It's hidden. V'chinas ibur, in the aspect of ibur, pregnancy. So there's a Kabbalistic concept. Everybody knows, we talk about this a lot, but that in the upper Kabbalistic worlds, the way that things happen is explained to us in the way of male and female relationships in this world, right? And really, what the truth is that the way that we're created is that we are a mushal. We are I don't remember what the English word for mushal is, but we're a mushal for what the real true existence is up there. So the fact that we live in this world where we have a man and a woman that get married and come together and have children, it's not because we're like that the upper worlds are like that. It's because the upper worlds are like that we come out the way we do. That this is how we are, right? We're just a result of the way the real true existence in the spiritual realms are. That's why we look the way we do, right? The fact that we have, this body that has, our Chachma and Bina, and our Chesed and Gevura and Tiferes and our Nitzchot and Yesod, that our body fits this Kabbalistic structure, is only because that's the way it really is. That's the way that the highest levels of creation are. So when it comes down to this world, the lower levels of creation, we come out looking like this. We are just a mushal. We're just a projection, really, of what the truth really is, right? So everything that happens up there happens down here, and all levels in between. So there's a concept in Kabbalah that comes out in many different ways. It happens in the regular Hishtalshelus, the regular way that the universe has come down, of pregnancy. And in a certain place, upstairs, when the two different things come together, Abba and Ima, Zeranpin and Nukva, so they join together, and they then, a pregnancy happens, and a gestation period happens. And there's different periods of gestation depending on what's happening in the spiritual worlds. And then it's born, and then it comes down into the lower levels, okay? There's another concept of ibur, of pregnancy, but what it means is that it's being held for a gestation period, for a time period. It's not available, right? So too, there's another concept that a person can have an ibur neshama. They can have a neshama, a soul of a tzaddik, attaches itself, impregnates that person with that soul for a certain period of time. And that soul then is able to make a tikkun that they were supposed to fulfill in a previous life, right? It's the idea. So what happens when a woman's pregnant is the baby is, as we like to say, in the mommy's tummy. and in a sense it's hidden and it's not available, and the mommy and the tati are chalashing. They can't wait, right? It's hard to wait when the woman's pregnant, right? You're like, you can't wait for the baby to be born. It's so exciting. But it's hidden. It's blocked off, right? So too, in this concept of ibur, it refers to when something is kind of hidden away. So sometimes this divine intellect that we want to experience, this divine inspiration and wisdom that we want to experience, it's out of our reach. We can't reach it. Not only is it a makif, but it's like an ibur. It's hidden away for a period of time until we're ready for it. So how do we cause that intellect to be born, in a sense, to us? Right? It's so awesome. Right? We need it's hidden away. It's gestating. It's growing, and it's waiting to come down and to have a relationship with us. This divine wisdom. So how do we cause it to be born out of its ibur, out of its pregnancy, that we can experience it? So he says, Rabbi Nachman, Va'az yafat sa'aka la'adam, bein b'tefila bein b'Torah. When that happens, the ticket is, the key is tza'aka, to cry out. That is what causes this baby of divine intellect and wisdom to be born. Let's see how he gets to this. When the wisdom is hidden, ki behelem hainu ibur, because when it's hidden, when it's in the state of pregnancy, it becomes in the aspect of the pasuk that says, the mighty one who bore you is exhausted. Like it says in Yeshaya, when the person, the lady, has no strength to give birth. Like a woman. So, for those of you who are not ladies who have experienced pregnancy and childbirth over here, right? So sometimes, depending on the child and depending on the lady, sometimes birth happens fast, and it's not so difficult, and it goes smoothly. Sometimes it happens, they can't wait, it happens on the way to the hospital, right? But other times, it takes a really long time, and it's tremendously painful, and it can take hours and hours, and sometimes even days, right, of gestation. And sometimes, during that time, a woman can get so tired that she's given everything she has for way too long, and she just has no more energy whatsoever. She can't push anymore. She can't do anything anymore, right? It's a terrible situation to be in. So such a thing can happen. The baby is stuck, right? And depending on the situation, some people find a way to give the mommy more strength and encouragement and help, and loved ones come and the whole thing. Or sometimes, if it's stuck for too long, they have to do an emergency C-section, right? Because she can't. It's stuck. It's too much. She's no more energy left whatsoever. Kamoi isha shetasha koicha mileda. Ubesha she kairas leiled ramas shivin kalin. And at the time when she gets ready to give birth, and she crouches to give birth, she screams, she delivers 70 screams. She cries out 70 times. Kaminyan tevois shebemizmor Ya'ancha, like the number of screams that are in the Tehillim, the capital of Tehillim, called Ya'ancha. There's 70 words in this psalm that asks that Hashem should answer us. And this is actually, this happens to be like a segula for if a lady is having trouble delivering a baby, that she should say this Tehillim Ya'ancha, which is made up of 70 words, which accomplishes these 70 screams, which allow the baby to be born. In other words, just like we need those 7 pathways, those 7 sanctifications to draw down the light into the world, so to release the impregnated wisdom, we need 70, which is just, everything is made of 10 spheres. So we have to use these 7 screams, 70 or 7 screams to draw down this wisdom. Just like this Tehillim is what a woman should say in order to get her childbirth moving, to ease her childbirth. Just like a woman who's actually giving birth says this Tehillim, so too, that same thing, the 70 screams will help to bring down this wisdom into us that's impregnated and trapped upstairs for us. Then she gives birth. V'hashavin kalin hein bechinas shiva kolos sha'amar David alamayim, and they're connected to the seven things that David HaMelech said on the water. Shekol echad kalo me'eser, because each one is made up of 7. Right? V'hatza'aka sha'adam tzoyek b'tfilasoi b'torasoi k'shenishtalak ha'mochin bechinas ibor. And these screams that a person screams out in his tefillah or his Torah, when this divine wisdom has left him and is in this aspect, or has not come down yet, and is in this aspect of pregnancy, it's the same type of screams as someone giving birth, as a lady giving birth. Right? Husbands, don't ever say this to your wife. Yeah, you screamed when you gave birth. I also have to scream when I try to understand Torah. It's the same thing. Right? Don't say that. That's not what we mean. Chas v'shalom, are we minimizing the awesomeness and the power? We all know, by the way, every man knows for sure that we could never do what you guys do when it comes to childbirth. Like, we know it. We really know it. It's not a joke. But here it's a joke. It's not the same thing, but it's the same thing. Just like the woman screams 70 times to give birth to the child, so too we have to scream 70 times to draw down this wisdom, to allow this wisdom to be born into the world again. V'Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem, who knows all the hidden things and where these wisdoms are hidden, Hu mazin tzakasenu, he hears our cries, hears our screams. V'atza'aka hu b'makom tzakas hashchina, and our scream is in the place, in place of the Shechina, the divine presence that's crying. Kilu hashchinit, it's as if the Shechina is crying. Va'az moledas hamochin, and then the intellects, the wisdom comes down to us. We just said something amazing, which I can't wait to tell you. Just give me a second. And this is what the Gemara says, and it's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch by davening, that when we use our voice for tefillah, and we don't just think, using our voice arouses our kavanah, arouses our intent. Kavanah means our thoughts, right? So in this sense, our screams, our cries to HaKadosh Baruch Hu arouse this intellect and allow it to be born. So check this out. This is crazy stuff. So he said over here that when we scream out to Hashem and we want this wisdom to come down to us, to be born into us, it's as if really the Shekhinah is screaming out. Right? It's as if the divine presence is screaming out. We are just it's as if we are just a receptacle. We're just like a pipeline. We're like the loudspeaker for the Shekhinah. Really, the Shekhinah is crying. Why is the world the way it is? Why is the divine presence not more revealed in the world? Why don't we have the Malchus de Kedusha? Why do we have the Malchus of the Sitra Achra? Why the Shekhinah wants to be revealed, right? And wants there to be a Geula, and wants there to be Mashiach. More than we want it, obviously. So when we are screaming out for divine wisdom, for Or HaPanim, for divine light, it's really the Shekhinah is screaming through us. So it said about, where did I see this? I've said this over in shiur a few times. This comes from an amazing source. Oh yeah, this comes from the introduction of one of the, Rabbi Gershon Henoch Leiner, who was the Baal HaTecheles. I think it comes from his introduction to one of his svarim, which is like a whole hashkafa with Kabbalah and everything. He says over there this unbelievable idea, and whoever's heard it will be happy to hear it again. I know I could hear it over and over again. But he says that when a baby is born and the woman is screaming, right, in the pain of childbirth, right? So he says, really, it's actually not the woman screaming. I mean, it is. But it's not only the woman screaming. Really, the woman is really a channel for a different scream. And that scream is the scream of this soul that's about to be born. Because while in the physical world, the whole tumult and the whole difficulty and the whole, pain and this intense situation of childbirth is unfolding here, down in this world, in the upper worlds, there's a similar, very intense, painful situation happening. And that is that the soul of this baby is being pulled out of its root. and being shocked and sent down into this world, the Almud Shikr, the world of lies. It's being taken out from right beside HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right under the Kisei HaKavod, where it comes from, place of total emes, right? And it's being said, you're being taken out of this place, and now you got to go down to this, the lowest of the low place, the Almud Shikra. And when that soul is pulled away from that place, Tachas Kisei HaKavod, it lets out a scream that goes from one end of the universe to the other. And that scream is encapsulated in the woman's scream when she's giving childbirth. Right? So when the woman is screaming during childbirth, it's not only a scream of pain. It's a cosmic scream of this soul being brought into the world. Similarly, says Rabbi Nachman over here, that when we scream out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for light and for wisdom in our tefillah, in our Torah, it is our scream and it's our pain that we want more connection and we want more light in our lives. But really, it's also encapsulating the scream of the Shekhinah that wants nothing more than to be revealed and that loves us more than we can imagine, right? And that wants there to be a tikkun in the world. It's pretty amazing, right? Wow. V'zeh b'chinas tichalem shivas yamim. This is why it says over there that she would she not be embarrassed for 7 days if her father spit in her face? Shivas yamim. Zeh b'chinas shiva kodesh David. This is corresponding to the seven voices of David HaMelech. Yeah. Sorry, I lost my spot here. The 7 voices, the 7 cries that David HaMelech made. Shem Shavin Kalin. These are the 70 screams of the Tehillim Yancha. Shetzarech litzai kedei lahoitzi or hapanim. That this is what we have to scream out in order to draw down the or hapanim. Mehelam elagilui, from being hidden to being revealed. Vagilui ze bechinas leida. And this revelation of this divine light is an aspect of birth. Right? It's an aspect of birth. And when we receive it, it's like a new existence for us. Something new is brought into the world. We're like reborn in a certain sense. The Oz, Achar Haleida, and that's why we see also after the birth, Dam Nekar v'naiseh chalav. The blood is repressed and it becomes milk. V'az bechinas tikalem ki aklima, and that's why it has to do with tikalem over here. That being embarrassed. Ki aklima azal sumka v'asi chivra. When someone's embarrassed, their face goes from being red to being white. So like this, the deeper Torah wisdom talks about that where does the white milk of from a mother come from, right? Is it just like is there a milk store in the body from the time she's little? Does she drink milk and then it's stored and then it comes? No, it comes from the body of the woman. The body of a woman produces milk, and in a certain sense, it's as if like the blood that flows through a woman's body, somehow through the the glands and everything. Like I don't really know the system so well, right? But somehow the flesh of a woman, the flesh and blood of a woman, gets turned from being flesh and blood into producing milk. It goes from dam nekar v'naiseh chalav, right? And so this change from white to red and red to white is always discussed in this deeper Torah, especially in Rabbi Nachman, as corresponding to embarrassment. Because when a person gets embarrassed, you can see it on their face. Often what happens when a person gets embarrassed is that their face, all of a sudden they go, sometimes they turn red, but usually when the first part of the embarrassment happens, it's like they go white. And then they go red again. The changing of colors always is connected in deeper wisdom to embarrassment, right? So, just like at the end of the situation of Miriam, where he says, wouldn't she be embarrassed, right? So too, at the end of the birth process, we have a change of colors. Her being embarrassed would change her color from red to white, white to red. So too, at the end of the birth process, now the mother begins to produce milk, which is going from red to white also. V'zeh, Sur, Yoladecha, Teshi. And this is what the pasuk said: Tzur Yiladecha Teshi, the mighty one who bore you, is exhausted, and so the thing that needs to be born is hanging in limbo, right? So what does that mean? The says Rabbi Nachman, Rashi Tevis, shell. If you take the first letters of these three words, it's also the first letters of what we say, Tza'akasenu Yodea Ta'alumos. Our cries are known by the one who knows all secrets, who knows all hidden things. That's where our cries go. Kanal, v'zeh, and also teshi, the word teshi, which is the last word in this sentence, that he's become weak. Rashi Tevos shall tikolem shivas yamim are the same. Rashi Tevos, the first, are an acronym for that tikolem shivas yamim. She will be embarrassed for 7 days. So we see like this. We're going to stop there because we're ready to go to letter Ches now. But let's just bring it down so we can leave with some kind of clarity. Yeah. I mean, I said it a few times now, but but we'll say it again to finish off here. The system is, and the goal is, that we want to be connected to the divine light of Hashem, which expresses itself as divine wisdom in our experience. And we want to experience this, we want to be part of bringing it into the world. And we certainly don't want to hold it back. Right? And that divine light coming into the world is the same process on a spiritual level, on a spiritual plane, as the process of childbirth. Right? And so there's similarities. And just like when childbirth happens, there's a tremendous tumult, and the mother has to scream in order to get through this process and to give have this baby be born. So too, if we wanna have this wisdom born down into us, we have to scream to Hashem. We have to cry out to Hashem that we really want it. Right? So that means when we daven, right? We don't just, when we go out and do Hisbodedus, we talk to Hashem. We don't just say, okay, I can fit you in, Hashem, for 15 minutes right now. I've scheduled you, Hashem, for the next 15 minutes, but then I got to get back in my car because, I got to be at the dentist right afterwards. So let's have a quick talk. Here's what I'm thinking about. Okay. When we really mean something and really want it, we get passionate. And our voice gets louder. And sometimes we need to do this. We need to scream to Hashem. We need to really mean it. We need to dig deep, right? And pull from our depths. When a woman is going through childbirth, is there any pretense? Is anything fake? Right? It can't be. It's the most real existence that could be. We can't be fake. We can't pretend. If we really want this, so we're going to cry for it. We're going to cry to Hashem for it. Through our tefillah, through our Torah. When we're learning Torah together, what happens when we get to the parts that are very passionate? Right? Are we just reading it very quietly and nodding to each other and saying, isn't that interesting? No, we get very excited. And our voices get louder, and we're impassioned, and we're crying, we're screaming our Torah to Hashem right now, right? Because it's important to us, and we need it, and we have to have it. So we put energy into it, and we give everything we got to try and pull it down, right? So if we want this divine wisdom and divine light to be born into the world through us, and to be and for us, that we can be connected to it, we got to put some energy and some emotional passion into it to bring it down. We got to cry to Hashem, right? This is one thing. And this is just another sort of perspective of this pathway that's occurring, right? From one other perspective, it's like, okay, in order to make that happen, and one other tool, we have to purify the pathway. We have to make sure that we work on our entire existence, that we're to whatever extent we can, we're fixing up our eyes, we're only trying to look at holy things, we're fixing up our ears, we're trying to listen to the tzaddikim, we're fixing up our nose with Yiras Hashem, we're fixing up our mouth only to say truth and only to say good things. And by doing that, we're turning ourselves into a pure vessel that can receive this, right? And we see it in other aspects of life, with marriage and with someone passing on to the next world. And now we see it that from another perspective, while that's happening and all those things are important, there's another ingredient that we can add to it. And that is to allow this wisdom to be born into us through our impassioned screams of spiritual labor that a woman would have when she's giving birth to a child. So in the end, I would say like this: we got to turn ourselves into a vessel that can receive the divine light that Hashem wants to give us. First point. And second point is, we have to really want it. We have to build our desire for it. And when we really want it, we'll cry for it. And we'll scream to Hashem for it in whatever way we can. Those are the take-homes from the end of this third part of Torah 21. Any comments, questions, smiles, waves? Yeah, Julie.
Which Tehillim do they say, like the pregnant woman says, that it's 70? What number is it? Is it Tehillim 70?
Yeah, Ancha. 1 second. Let's see.
Thank you.
It is.
I was 70 maybe.
Yeah, it's 1 second. Let me just see here. I think it's the same Tehillim that we say, by the way, in Shacharis, right after the second Ashrei. You know how after Kriyas HaTorah or after Shmon Esrei you go Ashrei, then the Tehillim Yancha, and then Uval Etzion. So he says over here, yeah, so it's 20, Chaf, Psalm 20. Let me just see for 1 second. Yeah, hold on a second. I believe it's the same one. Let me just double check here. So if you look into your siddur after Shacharis, after Kriyas HaTorah, Ashrei. Yeah, let's see. So this is Tehillim. No, it's not the right one. So there's another Tehillim over here. It seems to be. Is this it? Lam Natzeach Mizmor LaDavid Ya'ancha Hashem B'Yom Tzara. Yeah, I think this is it. It looks like it's about 70 letters, 70 words. We'll have to see. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So if a male or female gets remarried,
Yeah.
what happens? Is that considered the same kind of process for the soul?
Great question. Yeah, it is 20. By the way, that one over there is 20. Okay. So, this is a good question. And, I don't know all the secrets of the universe, right? And who is married to who and why and what. And, what everybody's purpose is and what everybody's soulmate is. But theoretically speaking, there are a few options to understand this. And one of them could be that the first time you got married, that wasn't the right one. And that's why it didn't work out. Right? And so you have a new chance to find the one that's really meant for you. And that will be the what's it called? The correct, if you could say, soulmate, right? The other thing is that something that I like to point out is that none of us know what we're talking about. And for like in this way, Kabbalistically, we see that there are many different aspects to the soul of a person, and we can be built up of multiple different levels of souls from different roots, right? So we have just very, very simply, there's 5 levels of soul in the Kabbalistic understanding, which is nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechida, right? 5 levels of soul. And we can have a different, one of those levels can be from one existence, and one of them can be from another existence. One of them can require one type of tikkun, and one can require another tikkun. And from the way that I understand it, I'm not an expert, but in different times of our lives, we can be actualizing and dealing with a different aspect of our deeper makeup, right? So from that perspective, it might be possible to say, if anyone's thinking that they should tell this to someone else, make sure you tell it with a grain of salt. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just kind of speaking from what things that I've seen and heard, right? So it's possible that at that time, this person was right for me, but then something was changed, a tikkun happened, something that was accomplished, something was broken, and now I'm this person. I'm this root. I'm dealing with this root now, and this root needs a different partner. You hear what I'm saying? So, with all the things that we don't know, these are some possible ways to look at it. But what's the main thing? What Rabbi Nachman tell us about this? Can you guess? What do you think he would say? I'm pretty sure Rabbi Nachman would tell us, it's not your business. Don't worry. Just find the right person now and try to be good and try to have a good marriage and try to do the best you can now. Today. Yeah, just today. Find a person and who you can do this with. And don't worry if this is the right one, or if the previous one was the right one, or how do I know if it's the soulmate, or if I don't know it's the soulmate, right? Find a person who wants to work with you to bring light into the world, who wants to bring elokus, godliness into the world, and who wants to build with you, and who has a similar vision to you. And then, from those things, everything will fall into place. Imrit Hashem, I would say.
We see that Tamar, after her two husbands passed away, she became a prostitute. Is that the right path to go? Is it okay?
That's a really great question. And it's something that we dealt with a little bit in, I think, not this week's Lost Princess shiur, but the one before. And, it's something that's really difficult to understand and deal with, and really awesome at the same time. Which is the fact that something can happen, Hashem can make something happen that appears to be pretty bad and not the right thing. But that thing that's not the right thing, and it's just the truth, is actually the seed of redemption and is necessary. In other words, with Yehuda and Tamar, it can't be right to become a prostitute, right? Yeah, so over there, it's an aspect of levirate marriage, and there's because he was right, it was his sons and whatever. It's possible, but at the same time, it's clearly it's not a simple situation. But from that comes Mashiach. So too with Lot and his daughters. From that relationship of incest. Okay, they thought they were repopulating the world, at least the first night, right? From that is also where the seeds of Mashiach come. Right? So it's awesome, it's interesting, but we never know what we're experiencing in our lives. Sometimes we're experiencing something that seems to be, it just doesn't make sense. And it can't be right. And it can't be good. But really, that thing that we're experiencing could be the seeds of our own redemption. Right? And maybe we'll get to see it later on. We'll get to look back with, like we say in the Lost Princess, where we look back and we see that not that the whole time we were mining gold from a mountain, but really the whole mountain was gold. Everything was gold. Everything was a gift from Hashem. Mirz Hashem, that's how we'll soon be able to see everything in our individual lives and in the whole history of the universe. That's a good place to stop, I think. Good note to end on. All right, everybody, have an amazing week, and we'll see you in Mirz Hashem next Monday and Wednesday also. And have a great Shabbos.
Have a good trip.
All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.